Welcome back, guys. Thanks for clicking. I'm standing on a spot where earlier this year we had to cut down an old cedar tree. And it's a cedar tree we didn't want to get rid of. It's one of the trees on the property after we cleared it. We used to sit under for shade before we had any buildings. But somehow it got diseased. It really had no greenery left to it. And also it was sort of in the path to putting the water line to the house. We could have worked around it, but we saw that the tree was on its last legs anyway. So during that video, we said we're not gonna waste it. So today we're gonna make good on that promise. So here's that cedar tree. It's right where it was at the end of that video. And what I have to do now is determine how long I wanna cut it. And I'm thinking once I clear the butt end, I'm gonna go about 9 feet. That'll allow for some cracking on the end as it dries, although it's pretty dry now. Let me show you what I made or designed to use the Alaskan sawmill. It's got these like flower leaf or petal type of things to the stump, and that's not gonna make a good board. So I'm gonna come back, I don't know, probably to about here. And I hate to lose that much of it, but I just don't know that I'm gonna gain anything by leaving it on there. And that's kind of angled up anyway, so that would get cut off. I built these things out of 2x4s. I'll screw this into the log once I figured out, you know, where the pith and everything is. And then I bought these aluminum rails, and all they are I think 1-inch aluminum. Just went to a metal store or a Steel City, USA, I think is the name of it here in Panama City. And I cut out these 2x4s so that this rail will sit in this 2x4 once it's screwed to the log. And then my Alaskan sawmill will ride right on top of that aluminum rail. A lot of people will use an aluminum ladder to do that, but I just thought this was a neat idea. Hadn't seen it before. We'll be using my Stihl MS241C. It's their professional model production saw, but it's not in production anymore, meaning you can't buy it anywhere but Germany. And after I get the log sized, I've got a ripping chain. So this chain is cut at a different angle, and that's because we'll be going with the grain instead of across the grain. Brand new, so this will be super sharp, and we should be able to get some good boards out of this log. We'll be using the Summit TX25 and the Summit Grapple. We're just gonna pick up this log and get it ready for milling. Ah, there it goes. That's pretty impressive. That's no small tree. Oh, I was trying to curl it back and I went the wrong direction. My goodness. You gotta laugh. You just gotta laugh. 50% chance of getting that right. Let's not play around anymore. Get this thing cut. I'm just gonna like take slices out of it. I was thinking maybe I would go for it all at once. I'm just gonna take slices out of it. I was gonna cut it like this. Eventually these will go away. As I go deeper into the wood, they'll go away. But I guess if you were imagine a cant, like a 6x6 or 8x8 post around that center, I guess it don't matter which way you go. I was just thinking maybe the boards would be wider if I went through here. This is 8 foot to here, and that'll leave a little bit of the tree left for more. I guess I got a clean end there. So we'll go 8'4". Got it barely off the ground over there because you can see the left side of the loader is down lower than the right side. I don't want the log to split, so I got to cut some from the bottom and some from the top, and those cuts may not match up exactly. So having an extra 4 inches to play with at the end of the log will be good. All right, hope it don't split. Okay, good, it didn't split. In the Air Force, we have a saying, hope is not a plan, but that was my plan on this one. I think I'll set it right on top of this flat board here, or this 10 by 10 post, and mill it on top of that. So I gotta move that piece out of the way, and then come in here with the grapple and drop it there. Wonder if I can push that and drop that first. I don't know. You'll see it as it unfolds. Maybe I can roll it with the bottom of the grapple. Bottom of the grapple has some teeth on it. I don't want to get dirt in it because I'm going to mill that piece too one day. All right, that worked pretty good. All right, what's the chances this goes where I want it to go? All right, let's figure out the pith and start this milling process. I'm excited. Here's the somewhat technical part, and I'm not a sawyer, so I don't know everything. But from the center there to here is about 6 inches. And that's going to be a bigger distance on the other end. And what you want is the board to be cut from the same grain. So on the tapered end, we had 6 inches. So this one is 6 inches to here. So what that means is from here to here, you got 6 inches on both sides. So you want to cut this off here. And then whatever this board cross section is of this grain will be the same grain on the other end. Otherwise, you might start your board down here on this one. So the board would be cut like this, the width of this tape. And down at the other end, it would be at the top. And you would get cross sections of grain. I think the term is called centering the pith, P-I-T-H. And so the way this works is this board will go here, and I'll put those rails. I've got this first board mounted, and this board is something I came up with. It's just a piece of 2x4 with cutouts for the aluminum tracks. Then I pre-drilled a bunch of holes in it. And I just measured up from here, just trying to figure out where the pith is, but the actual chainsaw mill, imagine this was the chainsaw bar, this can hang down to here. It's just, this gives it something to ride on, but I've got it level and screwed in, and all I have to do is do the same thing on the other side, put my rails in, and then make sure there's no wood in between here and the other end that the rails will touch, because they should fit in this slot, and then down on the other end, this slot as well. You can see just by how much I'm doing here and working with this, how much easier a sawmill is, right? You put it on the sawmill bed, and then your blade is stationary, and the blade cuts the boards. In this case, the chainsaw is not stationary. The chainsaw actually moves along with the log. So the chainsaws always are between this reference point and that reference point. The bar is always going to stay right here, and that follows the log or the top of these rails, rather than a bandsaw that could, you know, be riding up this high and take a little sliver here and a bigger sliver down there. All that to say, a true sawmill is much easier than an Alaskan chainsaw mill. Okay, now this is the first time I've ever done this. What I used to do is those same boards you saw me screw into the side, I used to take a 2x4 and level it there, and then I would put some flat 2x4s on top of it for the chainsaw. So that rail is not sitting deep in that pocket like this rail is. This rail is sitting in there on the 2x4. This one's hung up right here. So I just got to come in here with the chainsaw and clean that up. If you've never seen how Alaskan chainsaw mill works, your bar of your chain clamps in here with these two bolts, and this is a 1/2-inch wrench. And that's the actual trade name or product name. I'll put links to anything I use in this video down below, but I bought this from Amazon like 5 or 6 years ago. But this rides on top of there. Your chain rides here, or your chainsaw rides here and cuts, and then you loosen this up, and that's how deep your chain will cut. Then this just slides along here, and then this, whatever you've established here, this reference point, is mimicked by your chainsaw. And then once you get that first one off, it's nice and flat, and this can ride on top of your cut surface. So we'll go ahead and set my depth now so you can see that. And these gear wrenches are perfect for this. They get in here, you don't have to worry about a socket. You can ratchet them. Just much better than, say, a regular combination wrench. We can take this and move this down to where I think the chainsaw should be. It's easier to adjust without the chainsaw on it for sure. We already measured the pith, so, because whatever this is under this block here will be the same under the back block. There's a lot of setup time and it's cumbersome at first, but once you get that first one done, it goes pretty quick, especially with a nice sharp chain like we'll be using today. This is just a plexiglass guard so the sawdust doesn't come and hit you. And then this you just use to push your chainsaw, because your chainsaw is going to be attached to this. All right, now let's change the chain on the chainsaw and attach it. These things can be frustrating, undoing a chain. Just got to kind of think through it, because it's always just a bunch of loops. And as the chains get used, they stretch, and that goes in the other direction. While this chain is new and nice and shiny, I'll show you the difference in the teeth. The teeth on a ripping chain, like we're going to use here, has a very low degree angle. I think that's 20 degrees. And then this is the chain we took off, a regular cutting chain, and I think that's like 30 or 35 degrees on that chain. So you can see there's a big difference in the angle, and that allows it to cut sideways instead of cross-cutting like the chain in my hand. Now we'll put the chainsaw mill on the chainsaw. Just slip it in there. Goes right up against your bucking teeth. You want it centered there, so probably the easiest way to do it, hold it up like this. You don't want the teeth to hit any of the bars. You want that centered on your bar. And then tighten these set bolts down. Where's Mommy? Go get her. Get her. Get her. It's Piney Grove. So there's two set bolts here. I've got this one tight. You can see I got the bar centered in between here. Then I just tighten this bolt. These are crucial that you get really tight, because this will keep your chain solidly in the tool. You already see that not having a 20-inch bar is going to be a problem, but I can pull these forward, and then I'll set the mill on top here. And then the bar of the chain will go right under the 2x4s, and then go down and cut the cedar log. All right, let's try it. It's always hard to start the chainsaw like this, but this is the big reveal here. That went pretty smoothly. These rails and everything that I had made, or that I bought, and those little end, it just made it just so much easier to use than what I've used in the past. The tree's been standing dead for a while, and then it's been sitting here for several months. So it's definitely punny seasoned. Is the suspense killing you? It's killing me, but I want to do it right. So I had to go get Deb. She was in the middle of eating lunch, but this was just too exciting not to have her here to reveal this. This tree was a very emotional tree for her when we cut it down.
Yeah, this tree has a lot of meaning to us, and it's an emotional tree. We said when we took it down and mulched it up, when he took it down, that we'd use it for something.
Yep.
So It's so pretty, and I'm excited. It's so pretty.
My, oh my.
Oh, y'all. Oh my goodness. We said we were going to do something with it, and we knew she would be pretty because but look at how beautiful this is. Oh my goodness gracious. This is a, gosh darn, look at all those knots. Oh, wow. Look at God's masterpiece. I mean, seriously, look at this. It looks like it was hand painted. I'll get emotional again. So now I don't want just a little piece of it. I want a long bench. I want a board for a bench. It looks like a Van Gogh. I'm just telling you, it looks like a Van Gogh.
It's almost like there's several trees in here and they've all grown together as one because there's so much graining and bark embedded deep, like deep in the center of the log. And that bark there just gives it character like I've never seen before with a piece of cedar.
I mean, it exceeded my expectations, and I knew it was going to be beautiful. But look, come down low. Look at that. It's just gorgeous.
We decided was to get a 2-inch slab next. So I don't know if you can see the graduation marks there, but if I set that to 2 inches right there, that'll give me a 2-inch cut on my next cut. Doesn't have to be exactly 2 inches, because let's face it, it's a chainsaw mill. So the hardest part is getting that first piece cut, and now the chainsaw mill will ride right on top of this flat surface and you can just go on down the line. Now something I've learned is to put the wedges in behind the chainsaw. I used to not do that, and I'd go all the way down to the end, and it made it real easy at the end to make that final cut. The log is wider than my chainsaw, so when I got to this point where I knew it was narrower, I turned the chainsaw around and back cut this 1 inch or so. I don't like doing that because it puts a little bit of a chainsaw mark because you can't get it perfect. But there's really nothing else you can do other than freehand it. Now in this cut, you got to make sure you don't tilt your chainsaw, so you got to keep it tight against this little bar right here. Hard to do with one person. There's the beginning of my 2-inch slab, and you see that I can't cut all the way through, so when I get up there, I'll bring the saw on this side and back cut it. Now this one was a little tougher because it was wider back here, and I had to come from the other side and cut back, and that usually gouges it, so I don't know what this is going to look like. Oh my goodness, that's absolutely perfect and gorgeous there. All those knots are still there, except they're nicer. Ah, there's a little gouge where I came in from that side. Doggone it. It's not so bad over here because I put the chainsaw in full length, but over here I just used like 6 inches of the chainsaw to cut that knot, and I gouged it a little. I mean, you can plane it out, but it'd be quite a bit of planing. These little knots are really good looking, but then you get into a big knot like that, you can just see all of those different grains kind of swirling. And over here it's just absolutely gorgeous where these little pieces were coming in. Still a little bit of that bark there showing, which that just looks so good. Now I'm going to back it off and make 1 1/8 inch boards. Probably I could get away with 1 inch, and then if they plane down to 3/4, that would be fine. So when the chainsaw was running this way, I've got an edge there, because when I ran the chainsaw back this way, it was a little higher, and then it put a little edge here as well. Let's see what we got under here. I had to bring the chainsaw all the way down, so on the other side, well, that's where I cut that knot. That didn't turn out too bad. That's not even a 16th right there. So I tried to keep the tip of the saw up, so I didn't create a line here. I got a little line there, but that's not bad at all. You get cedar to where it's just all red, and it's pretty, but it's just all red. And those lighter colors are what give it character. This is one heck of a piece. I don't know what this would have been worth if it was professionally milled, but I haven't seen cedar like this. And I look at cedar boards when I go into a lumber store and stuff. Earlier we talked about the pith, which is the center of the log out, and we should be equal distance between here and the boards we've cut off if you do it right. So I'm 1 and about a half inches on this side. Down here on the small end, I'm about 1 inch. So I'm a ½ inch off. That's not bad for someone that doesn't know how to mill. But ideally, this would be 1½ inch thick here, and then you would have taken the board on that end and this end equal distance from the center. Right now I'm kind of slanted down from the butt end towards the top. But being a ½ inch off across 8 feet with the rudimentary chainsaw mill, Alaskan chainsaw mill, I think it's pretty good. I just cut another 1 inch board, and I didn't think this log could get any prettier, but the knots on the other side are just absolutely gorgeous. But the yellow inside of the red, as well as the yellow on the outside, all of the knots, like that knot is just random. That's just a bump. Then your branch knots that come out. And then you have a little bit of what I'll call pecky or rotten in there. And then some of this bark going on as well. That bark in there. And this is the underside of it. It's always prettiest when it's first been cut. So absolutely gorgeous board right there. Guys, I've been working steady for a few hours, and Deb actually came out and she said, it looks like you're like a kid that's been playing with red chalk. That is the first piece that we cut off the top to give us a flat surface. And that's the last piece that I ended up with on the bottom. And I could have got one more 1 inch out of it, but the 1 inch would have ended about halfway up there because it's tapered. I didn't get the pith exactly right. I got it pretty close though. I got it within a ½ inch. I also have run out of chainsaw gas mix and chainsaw oil. And if you're wondering what it cost or what it took in chainsaw gas to do this, it was probably 5 or 6 fill-ups in that chainsaw, and probably 3/4 of a gallon of gas, and the corresponding oil as well. But moving along, this is the 2 inch slab that Deb wants for a bench. And then over here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 1 inch boards. This was the last piece that I cut before I stopped cutting. And then as we start to go deeper, we get more red, but we got some real character here with an internal knot that had a cavity around it, and a deep red here on this knot, and also some really nice graining around those branches that came out. And then more towards the center, it's more and more red, but it still has a lot of character where it has some of this bark deep in the center. Like there's only 6 or 8 inches of board here that's pure, you know, heart cedar. Out here we've got some bark, and that's 4 feet up into the tree because this is an 8-foot 4 inch board. That's the direct center, the heart. Those knots there are just out of this world. And that's a cross-sectional cut of that knot, kind of right in the center where that branch that came out. And then we're starting to get more towards the outer edge, and you start to get more yellow as you get towards the outer edge. But each one of these pieces has its own character. Totally blown away by this tree and the amount of lumber we got from it. And now we just got to use our imagination to see what we're going to build with it. And that sawmill will do the job, but it's work. It's a lot of work. It's a cool day out here. I would not want to be doing that in 90-degree heat. And I can see where a sawmill would be fun, but I don't know if I'm ready to make that step yet. But that'll wrap it up for today's video, folks. We sure appreciate you watching. If you didn't know, we're building a house. It's there in the background. There's a complete playlist on that, from concrete to shingles, and now we're starting to get to the inside and make all those interior decisions. So be sure to check that out. But until next time, y'all take care out there, and remember, life's short, tractor hard, chainsaw hard, and I guess get a sawmill.